Welcome back, guys. We're going now to actually discuss value heuristic, and that's something that matters a lot when we're solving optimization problem, not so much satisfaction. Let's see why. The first thing to notice is that value selection can be quite important when you're in a constraint optimization problem. And the reason is that your heuristics places desirable path, good path, on the leftmost side of the tree, right? And the reason is you want to have the solution on the leftmost part of the tree and the good solution there, so that the bound that you get once you hit that solution is quite good. And therefore, you are more likely to prune other nodes in the search tree based on the quality of that solution. So you want good solution early on in the search, as early as possible. And your search heuristic is going to have as its primary job to make sure that good solutions are found as far left as possible so that we hit them quickly. That's the main idea. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, that's a little abstract. Why is that true? Well, imagine that your objective function is a sum of weights times decision variables that are discrete. They can have integer values. Now, imagine that you're trying to maximize that. This is something like a knapsack. You're trying to maximize the value that you take with you. Now, in that case, why does the value selection heuristic for the variable matters? Well, if you're trying to maximize the value and you're considering a variable x whose weight is 1,000, well, you'd like to make x as big as possible, because if you can take 10 of those, you will get 10 times 1,000. If you can take 100 of those, you'll get 100 times 1,000, a lot more. So, if the weight is positive, you should pick large value when you consider variable x. Now, likewise, if the weight of the item were negative, each time you take one of those, you get hit by a penalty, which is that negative value. So you'd like to take as few as possible of those. You'd like to take the smallest positive value of these guys. And if it's possible to go negative in the value, you'd like to go negative in the value. That's interesting, isn't it? The value of the variable is going to have an impact on how good a solution you find early on during the search. Still complete, you'll see all of them. Hopefully you'll prune the worst one, but that's what you're after, getting good solution early on. Now, to make this clear, let's consider what happens when we're solving a traveling salesman's problem and where we're going to use a greedy heuristic, which is nearest neighbor. Why is that? Well, nearest neighbor is basically telling us that a way to get a good solution is try to go to the next city, the next hop, by traveling as little as possible, right? You want to be greedy. So if we have these collections of 5 cities and we start here, we can, from this starting point city, start to draw concentric circle around that one and really realize, hey, look, this city is the closest. The next one is a little bit further away. So why would I travel from here to there? I'm better off traveling here. So I can keep looking like that. And these are, of course, even further off. So out of these concentric circle, I want to take the closest and travel there. This is my first hop. Now I can repeat the process. Starting from that second city, what would I do? I can look at the distance to this one, to that one, and to that one. Not back, right? Because that would be a subtour. So basically, if I look at these 3 alternatives, I can basically see that the closest is this. Then from here, this one or that one, the closest is going up. From here, I can go there. That's the closest. And finally, I close. And I get my solution here, which should be a decent quality solution. It's not going to be optimal, of course, because we use the greedy solution. It may not always be the best decision to take the shortest path to the next hop, but it's going to give us a decent solution to begin with and therefore increase our chance of filtering based on optimality. So in this case, the branching is 2-step. We have the variable selection, which is a city, and the value selection and the partition, the branching. Note that the bound has an impact. What value we pick is going to have an impact on the quality of our bound for the whole problem, right? And the way this was described is as follows. So let me show you the algorithm. That's the algorithm here. We're sitting basically trying to minimize an objective function, which is a function of all the variable x1 through xn, subject to some constraints. And we're considering the variable selection for variable x3, right? The current domain of x3 has 4 values, v1 through v4. So the way we can do this is when we come in, we're going to loop over 4 values. And we're going to see which value leads to what impact on the objective. So I could say, okay, let's save my state. Let's post a constraint that binds variable x3 to one of these specific value, in turn v1, v2, v3, v4. Once we've posted that, we look at the value of the objective, and if it's better than the best we've ever seen, we will remember it, what is the best value, and we remember what objective it delivered. Then we undo the decision, we restore the state that undoes everything, and we try the next value, which means for v1, we'll get a sense of how good it is. For v2, how good it is. For v3, how good it is. For v4, how good it is. And then we look and pick the value that leads to the best objective. And that's what we post next. When we branch, we first say x3 will be equal to the value that had the best impact on the objective. In a sense, that's a generalization of what we've seen, and that can make our first solution quite good as we go ahead. Now, a bit of advice. This procedure for making the solution good is very costly, right? Because we're kind of not simulating, but trying every value and doing a full propagation to see the impact on the objective. So we save the state, we propagate, and then we throw everything away, we restore the state just for the sake of figuring out. So if there are 100 values in the domain, we're going to do that 100 times. That's quite a lot, right? So the idea is typically you do that only at the beginning of the search as you try to quickly find a first solution that's really good. And once you have the very good solution, go back to branching normally without this kind of limited probing or almost look ahead. Don't do that look ahead anymore. Do a normal search. But now that you have a good bound, you're going to make use of it to eliminate subtrees that are uninteresting. So that's it. We've basically covered all the variable and the value selections that are reasonable to do within 1 week. And now we're going to start looking at the world of meta heuristics and strategies that help to compensate when the heuristics fall a little bit short of our expectation. But that, of course, is a story for the next video. See you next time.